Hey guys, and welcome to the start of a new series where I'm going to be taking apart some of my redstone builds and showing you how each component works. Just like the main from the basic series, the goal of this is to teach newcomers how redstone works, in addition to expanding the knowledge of those of you who might already be a little familiar with redstone. In this video, we're going to be examining my most recent released creation, the 2x2 flush glass trapdoor. If you haven't seen the showcase or the tutorial for this yet and would like to, then links will be on the screen now for your convenience. Alright, so let's start off with the input. Now you might remember from my showcase video that this doesn't actually require a stone button to activate. In fact, any pulse length in Minecraft it'll still work with and it'll function exactly the same way. So even something as short as a 1-tick pulse, it'll still be synced and it'll still open in the same time and it'll still close in the same time. Now some of you might be wondering how that works, and the short answer is an RS NOR latch. So if we take a look over here, this is a little slice of what I have on this side. Then this is a dropper RS NOR latch, and the way this works is that there's two droppers facing into one another, and they pass an item in between them, and depending on where the item is, then the comparator is either off or on. If the comparator is if the item is in the top dropper rather, then the comparator of course is on, but if it's in the bottom dropper, then the comparator is off. And them being powered is pretty straightforward, but you might be wondering why this is one to the right instead of like being directly above the dropper and saving you a powered rail. And the reason isn't because I hate you and I want you to use as many resources as possible, but it's because of something called quasi-connectivity. And in short, it's quite a complicated topic, but in short, this button is powering this bottom dropper even though it's not looking like it. It's the same thing that allows pistons to be powered all funky and stuff, and allows people to create buds and stuff like that with pistons. Well, the most common way that is. There's other ways to create buds, but quasi-connectivity is the most common, and it also affects droppers as well. And there is a random screeching cave noise even though there's no caves around me. But anyways, that dropper is being powered by the button, and if the pulse length is long enough, then it'll actually break the redstone creation. I believe it's like even a stone button is long enough for it to break it. I think anything longer than like a 5-tick pulse is. So of course you're probably going to be inputting it with something longer than a 5-tick pulse, and instead of having you guys fix it after each use, which would not be user friendly, then I just moved the button one to the side and placed a powered rail. So instead of powering the bottom one by quasi-connectivity, I'm powering the top one instead, and I'm updating it instantly with that powered rail. Now, dropper droppers rather. Droppers can be powered by any pulse length in Minecraft, which allows me to do the any pulse length thing. And they can even be powered by a 1-tick pulse, and they will still function. So that's how that works in short. And how I get a long enough pulse length for it to do its thing is basically when you push the button to input, then it'll move the item into the bottom dropper, where it'll stay until after a certain amount of time, then it'll be pushed back up into the top dropper. And to get that certain amount of time, I actually had 0 error blocks, as you see here, to get that delay, so I had to get it from the bottom. And to do that, I just got an input from this dust over here, simply because it was easy, because I could just place a redstone block and a sticky piston underneath. And that's how I did it. So sticky piston and a redstone block there is powering this one over here. And as you see there, when this one is off, this one is on, and vice versa. So when I push this button, as you see there, that extends, that retracts, and then after that, that retracts, and then this extends. Now, if I were to remove this, you would see what would happen. Hold on. If I were to remove that, then it would be perpetually on, as you see there. So what I needed to do was, I couldn't just simply have the redstone block there, because as you see there, that's not powering the dropper. So I had to turn this off somehow, and to do that, I used a hopper dropper over here, and also a cauldron with a piston. And the way this works is, initially this hopper dropper powers this piston at the right amount of time, but even that was a little bit too short for it to do its thing. So I had to extend it using stuff on this side, and this is a little bit complicated because there's like 5 things powering these pistons and stuff. But basically all you need to know is that when this piston retracts that redstone block, this piston will also retract, and then this redstone block will be powering that piston, which extends it for the right amount of time. Just like that. And system resets and stuff and everything is all great. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how this double piston extending circuit works, because there's like 4 of them, and I guess it's kind of important. when like half the creation is focused on double piston extenders. So if we come over here, once again, you can see I have a little slice of what I have over there, and when that retracts, this stuff extends. As you see there, we have a repeater, and wait a second, there is a hopper dropper here. Now you might be wondering, Zombachu, why didn't you just use something simple like this with dust and repeaters and stuff? And in short, when you have a regular double piston extender like this and a block, it works perfectly fine. As you see here, it extends and it retracts and everything is all happy and working and stuff. But when you have a sticky piston underneath like that, like you need to do when you have a 2x2 flush glass trapdoor, which just happens to be exactly what we're working on, to get the glass block into the flush with the floor position like that, you actually need sticky piston right there, and when you have dust, it powers it before the back pistons do, and it messes up like 3 different things. First of all, it messes up your floor. As you see there, when it does that, it messes up your floor like that. And then second of all, this actually doesn't extend, and it doesn't even move the piston to that spot where it needs to be. As you see there, it only moves it one spot like that. And then third of all, just I believe it screws up the pistons like that. So we cannot use this circuit at all. In fact, we need more delay where this dust is supposed to be. For some reason, I have a stutter when I'm working on videos, but only when I'm working on videos. I don't know. It's weird. I just can't talk correctly, and then I need to record things like 20 times. But anyways, enough of that. To solve that issue, I just used the hopper dropper, which has enough delay before it activates for it not to do that. So first, this back piston turns on, and not the hopper dropper. As you see there, this works. If you didn't believe me earlier, this back piston turns on before the hopper dropper activates, and then the hopper dropper activates, and then the piston gives a little pulse, and then it retracts its thing, and everything all works and stuff. So that's how the little piston extender works. And the way that the swapper works, that like makes it all seamless like this, is because of something called an ABBA gate, and simply it just like reverses the order in which things happen. As you see here, I have 2 pistons labeled A and B, and this will let you know how it gets its name. So first A happens, and then B happens, and then B happens again, and then A happens. So that's A, B, B, A. And that's how that works. And when I was making this, I had 2 options. Either I could extend the length of the A like this with that repeater, or I could make B turn on for shorter. And that's the option that I went with, because extending it would have been a lot more work, and I don't think I could have done it in the space. So I went with B, and I just made B shorter. So to get that pulse, I needed to have monostables on both sides of this creation, and I already showed you how the one on this side works. It's basically a whole bunch of comparators turning off other comparators, but this side is quite different. Now this is the monostable that I used for this side, and the way it works is, the way it works is that this piston retracts, which allows the dust to connect to each other, and then after 4 ticks of delay because of this repeater, when the repeater turns off, then the dust turns off as well, and then the output turns off. And I needed to use this monostable in particular instead of like a hopper dropper or something, as much as I would like to, for 2 main reasons. One of which is that this allows me greater freedom over the pulse length. I could have made this shorter if I wanted to by removing that repeater, or I could have made it longer by adding another repeater. I had another block of space here that had a 4-tick repeater, but I didn't need to, so it was really the second reason that required me to use this monostable. And that is because pistons start retracting instantly. Now, why is that important? Well, I already have enough delay over here with this shenanigans happening over here to match the delay coming out of this comparator. So I needed the monostable to start, or I needed this pulse to turn on instantly from this block, which was an issue, except I remembered that pistons exist. Well, it's not really remember. I knew that pistons exist, and then I just used the thing. But anyways, when pistons retract, like I said, they start retracting instantly, and that turns this block into an entity, and then the dust connects, and then the lamp turns on, or in this case it's the double piston extender. Now the way this double piston extender or the double piston extender moves the block there, and then this spits the block up, is demonstrated over here, I basically once again had two options, one of which was to explicitly give the piston a one-tick pulse or whatever. As you see here, it spits the block up or retracts it. And in the case over here, which is the one that I went with, it moves the piston in front of a power source and then it shuts the power source off. So as you see there, first the back pistons extend, then after it receives its short pulse, then it turns off the torch, and that makes it either only spit up the block or only retract it instead of giving like a both up and a down thing. Now I had to use that instead of the other one once again for space constraints. As you see here, I had absolutely zero space to make a one tick pulse or whatever happen. So I needed to go with the latter and I need to turn off the power source, and that's exactly what I did. However, it's a little bit more complicated than what I demonstrated over there. As you see here, we have a whole bunch of dropper hopper shenanigans going on. And the reason for that is two things need to happen in the same amount of space. One of which is that these pistons, the ones making it all nice and seamless and stuff, thank you very much, need to retract. And the second is that these pistons need to spit up their block as well. As you see here, they're just constantly powered because they're always in front of the power source. So it's just really there for demonstration because they're not actually going to be constantly there when the door is activating. They're going to be moved out of the way before it turns back on. But anyways, these two things need to happen in the same space, and I need to use these hopper droppers to do so. As you see there, they turn off at different times, which might seem a little bit magical considering that there's only two pieces of dust there. And the way that works is I separated the two pieces just like this. Here is the retraction circuit for the seamless pistons. And as you see here, I have a hopper dropper. And it's quite simple. As soon as this hopper rather loses its item and passes it back to the dropper, then these pistons will both retract. But it was slightly more complicated for that for the other portion because I needed to have pistons over here, but if I were to simply have repeaters just like this, then it would have been too short. Even if I were to max these out with 4 ticks, it would have been too short, and it would have lost power before the pistons got moved in front of it. So I needed a second solution, which is demonstrated over here. And as you see here, I have another hopper dropper shenanigans thing going on, and this comparator and this repeater actually turn off at the same time, which is really nice and what makes this possible. So as you see there, repeater turns off and comparator turns off at the same time. And the reason why I have this hopper dropper here and this hopper dropper here is so it doesn't interfere with the existing double piston circuit that I made. So this hopper dropper over here, I could have used a dust. It would have been possible and it would have worked. But if I had a dust there, it would have been powering this stuff as well. And that would not work at all. It would screw everything up and it would just be ugly. And the same thing happens over here. Basically, if I were to have a block there instead of a hopper, then what would happen would be that that block powers this monostable over here, and then it would never ever give a pulse, and once again things would break and pistons would move, and yeah, you would have to fix it. So I needed 2 hopper droppers just like that, just because it won't interfere with the double piston extending circuit. But this third hopper dropper exists solely for the function of doing the things over here. It has nothing to do with interfering with other parts. I needed this hopper dropper here because without it, once again, I would have had not enough delay. And if I were to have a thing there and then a repeater there, they would have been out of sync. So I needed a hopper there just because hoppers start losing their item instantly as soon as they turn the power powering them turns off. And that's exactly what's happening here. When this comparator turns off, then this hopper loses its power, and then it starts retracting instantly. Or not retracting, but it starts moving the item instantly, rather. So if we come back around over here, we can see the two combined. And there's, for the most part, they're not interfering with each other, I guess. This block is only being powered by that comparator. And so is this one because of this being a long item and this one being only emitting a 1 signal strength. But there is one piece of dust that's in contention, and that is this dust here. Now it doesn't matter that this dust is powering this dropper because it's the bottom that has the longer delay, and that's the one that we really care about. This one turns off, and it doesn't really matter that it turns back on beforehand. Nobody really cares about these repeaters turning back on. So It's the dropper that's not the issue, but it's the piston. So if we were to take off this tripwire hook, which is redirecting the dust away from these pistons, then as you would see here, these pistons would still be powered because of this comparator powering that dust. It wouldn't power this one because, once again, this only has a signal strength of 1 and it's not powering that dust there, but it's still powering the dust right there. And these would be out of sync, and pistons once again would screw up and you would have to fix it. So it was a very simple solution. All you need to do was redirect it just like that, and now this dust is no longer powering these pistons and everything works all perfect like that. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and maybe you learned a couple new tricks about redstone. As this is a new series, I would greatly appreciate any feedback that you have for me. Leave it in the comment section below if you guys thought that some sections were too long or too short, or maybe if I stayed on a topic for too long and you wanted more info on another topic, then just leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll try to do better next time. So yeah, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye!